All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a video I'm not exactly too excited to make, but I think it's a great video and a learning experience, hopefully for me and everyone else. This video is mistakes we've made so far building the Off Grid Homestead. You can see behind me here, this black pipe coming out of the ground. That is one of our cleanouts. We have one clean out way down here and one clean out right there. So when we installed our septic system, we put a double sweep clean out. So we got a clean out going this way back to the house and a clean out going this way back to the septic tank. Right now, unfortunately, one of our mistakes, you've seen our recent videos, you've seen that I completed all the drain waste piping under the house. So all the sewage pipes under the house are complete. And we've been using the bathroom, we've been using sinks. And this morning, Vaughn heard some dripping. And she's like, there's something going on under the house. So I went under the house. Sure enough, the clean out on the end of the system was dripping. And that is a bad sign. That means the entire pipe was filled with water. Sure enough, the new toilet flange and pipes that were put into the master bathroom, the toilet flange, that pipe was full of water. And that's not good water. So I ended up going out to the clean out, checking the clean out, and it looks like the pipe outside under the ground is froze. We're not 100% sure that's it, but it looks about like that's it. So if you guys looked way back when we first installed the system, this pipe is buried from the house out to the septic. It's 100 and some feet away from the house, so it's well out of range of our well system. But the problem with that is we freeze significantly here. So, I mean, just the other day, our temperatures, I think 3 days ago, were -40 at night. So, we boxed the entire pipe in 2-inch foam. So, under the pipe, two sides of the pipe, and the top of the pipe has 2 inches, 2 feet wide of foam. And I believe it's a double layer. If I remember correctly, it's 4 inches of foam on top, 2 on either side. Should have eliminated that from freezing. I don't know. We could have ran a heat tape down that and been able to plug a heat tape in, but at the time we didn't know what kind of a solar system or power we would be able to have. With being off grid, you got to really think about your power consumption, your electrical consumption. So in my mind, I was thinking, oh, we can't have a heat tape. No, that draws too much power. Heat tapes, wattage wise, that's a lot of wattage. Now I'm thinking, well, with the system that we bought, we have lots of power. We could plug the heat tape in when we need to, especially if it freezes. We could plug it in, thaw the pipe, unplug the heat tape, and only run it when we need to. Hindsight being 2020, that was a big mistake. I've got a heater that we need to put on top of this. We're gonna try to blow hot air down in the clean out and see if we can melt the line. It's gonna take a while, probably take a few days, but that's where we're headed, and then we'll see where it goes from there. All right, guys, I've got this 180,000 BTU, basically a forced air furnace. This heater, I've got these trunks. I've got one trunk going down over each of the cleanouts. I'm hoping to blow enough hot air down there over time. It's gonna melt the ice down there, and we'll see what happens. Got her fired up. Let that blow for a while. I may have to come in here and cover this up with a tarp or something to retain as much heat as possible, but right now let's see what that does. All right, guys, so I'm under the house here, and this is the pipe. It's a 4-inch pipe that goes down. You can see we got a 90. It goes down and then hooks at a 45 and goes out to the septic. This is one of my mistakes, guys. I believe right here in this pipe, I should have put a clean out. I could put a 4-inch combo or a 4-inch Y, and that would give me a way to access right here, unthread the clean out and go right down into the pipe and out. Right now we have no way to do that. The clog, I believe, because I can hear water sloshing right here, and if you look behind me, this is the toilet going up, and that toilet pipe right there is full of water right now. So my assumption is the clog is right here as it exits the house, somewhere close to that outside. I'm assuming that it froze right by the house going outside. That's pretty common. I should have put a clean out here, and then back, let me show you here. I believe right back over there, I should have put a clean out also, coming back to clean this stretch of pipe here, and then right over here somewhere, I could put a clean out to go that direction. So I believe my big mistake is not putting enough clean outs. There's a clean out on the far end of the system down there, but having clean outs along the way would have simplified things as far as if I did have a clog. It just gives you so many more options. I need to simplify the system. I mean, we live in an extreme climate. As far as the pipe outside freezing, we may have to do some excavation work this summer, and we may have to drop in a heat trace. Our water is about 34 degrees. It's super cold. 34 degree water gets out there. Things are already 50 below, 40 below, and you get a little bit of freeze and a little bit of freeze and a little bit of freeze over time. The pipe gets clogged. So I don't know. We're gonna have to look at some solutions. This is a huge learning curve for us living up here in this extreme climate. And I talk to people, and I'm trying to balance that with being off grid because we don't have grid power and access to everything that everybody else has. Let's see what the heat does for us. We're gonna keep that heat pumping out there. If I have to cover it in a tarp and kind of condense and basically put a ceiling over it to kind of contain the heat. Obviously we all know heat rises, it doesn't like to go down, and we're trying to force it down. So it may take a lot longer than we want, but hey, we don't have any options. We need to get this pipe cleaned out. We need to get the drain cleared and get it unfrozen. Well guys, you can see the heater here is turned off. It worked like a charm, way faster than I thought it would. And it really tells us that there was a freeze blockage here outside of the house. Whew, makes me happy because I still am gonna add some clean outs under the house just to give me some options for cleaning things out in the septic system. But I did everything right under the house. I got the proper slopes. I got the right angles at stuff. And the problem was out here, it was a freeze out here. One of the things I think we're going through here is that we're not fully set up. We're running just cold water for a toilet and a sink, and I just don't think that's enough flow. You're not getting any hot water going through the pipe, and so with the cold temperatures we get, I think that kind of caused a freeze up out here. It must not have been that bad because blowing this heat down those pipes, we were blowing down both clean outs, and it only took about 2.5 hours. And I was in the house, and I was just telling Vaughn how frustrated I kind of was with the septic, and kind of talking about some solutions. And all of a sudden, we heard it break free, and it started draining. And we're like, "Oh, it just broke." Yeah, so it was like, "Wow, okay, cool. It wasn't that bad." And so, anyways, we solved that problem for now. That way, we still use the indoor bathroom. And we'll just tweak things as we go. You know, it's one of those things. Like I said before, it's a huge learning curve for us. And so I'm going to add some clean outs. I think we'll see how the system works. I'm debating whether or not to try and, once we get the sink and the hot water heater in, and washer and dryer, and we're actually using our house to its full capacity, whether we get freeze up out here or not. But I'm really leaning towards digging this up this summer and running a heat trace line down that pipe, and that way we can just plug it in, and it'll be all foamed in, so that heat trace, if it does freeze up again, we can just turn the heat trace on. My guess is in a few hours it'll probably heat that up enough to get it flowing again, and I think that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. But guys, this isn't the only thing that we've had issues with. Let's keep going to the video, and I'll show you some other things. All right, guys, let's continue on with some issues that we've run into, problems setting up our homestead. So for those of you who don't know, we're living on 30 acres here. We have 30 acres. We built a house. We completely cleared this lot from just trees. It was natural forest. So behind me is our generator slash solar is what we're calling it. And if you've watched our videos, you know what building this is. Currently, we do not have our solar panels up. And what we're running off of is our charge controller, inverter, batteries. Batteries are charged by a backup generator. That's a 28 kW Cummins diesel generator. That's all housed in here. Solar and generator, everything. The building is set 150 feet off from the house because I wanted to get the generator away from the house, make sure that it wasn't disturbing us whenever it turns on. I knew it was going to be noisy, so we contained it in the building. It's got a huge muffler on it, and it actually is quite quiet. It's amazing how quiet it is, actually. But it's because we put the building so far away, which is fantastic. The problems I'm running into, let me take you inside and I'll show you. All right, so the issues we have with this building, it's been fantastic overall, but we did make some mistakes. Now right here is what I was talking about. This is the Schneider Electric XP Pro series of charge controller and inverter. And it's run off of, behind me there, is our diesel generator. That diesel generator does vibrate this building a little bit. It's a big generator, but you don't even notice the vibration of the building. But what has happened is above me, our ceiling is 4 inches of foam board. It's 2-inch foam board doubled. And so what has happened, let me show you up there. So what's happening is as the generator runs, it has slowly vibrated the foam to fall away from the ceiling. As the ceiling fell, ice got in there. There was frost being built up between the sheathing and the foam. So I've had to come in, heat the building up, get everything all cleaned up. And you can see I put in these 2x4 runners right there. And those are just basically just holding the foam up. Then I foamed all along both sides of every single stud bay. And then on the ends here, you can kind of see right there where the blocking is. Let me see if I can get you up there. Okay, right up there, you can see where the blocking is. I foamed in all of that. I sealed off where the roof or the walls meet the roof on both sides. And what was happening, the building's heated. And so anywhere there was leaks, I didn't think anything of it because I felt that the building was going to get too hot with the generator. So I didn't care about any of the leaks necessarily. But what I didn't realize and didn't think about, as the heat rises, it would seep out through the leaks. And let me show you what it's causing outside. So if you come around the back of the building here, this is my roofed in area where I keep my fuel tanks, my propane tanks. But look up here. All that frost is being caused by air leaks coming out. The hot air coming out, leaking out of the building, mixing with the cold air, and it just instantly frosts. So to eliminate the hoarfrost, I've had to go in and foam everything, all the blocking, anywhere I found a leak in the ceiling, I just went in and spray foamed everything. And I did that off camera, it just needed to be done. I'm holding the foam back up with the 2x4s, and that's gonna keep it from falling off the ceiling again. Then sealing up any of the seams, anywhere where there's possible an air gap. So the louver vents are right there. That's the intake air. And the intake air, the louvers open up. When the generator kicks on, the louvers open up and they draw in outside air. Then they come across the generator, and it comes across the generator and goes out a louver system that's right there connected to the radiator. So by and large, when I built the building, I had comments, lots and lots of comments saying that the building's built too tight, that the generator's gonna create too much heat and it's gonna overheat in the building. Well, don't forget we live in an Arctic environment. The generator won't be running in the summertime when we get the solar panels up. So it's only running in a cold environment. We keep the building heated so that the generator doesn't cold start, right? You wanna keep the oil warm, keep the engine warm so that it kicks on automatically when it needs to, because it's all on auto start. I don't even have to think about it. The problem is, we get to, like this year, we showed you guys, we were negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that was our coldest we saw. But we sat at negative 30, negative 20 to negative 30 for a very long time. So imagine negative 30 Fahrenheit air being pulled in, hurricane force winds when that generator starts. It's amazing the amount of air that's pulled into this building. It freezes this building solid. Any water, we keep oil in here, we keep water for the batteries, oil for the generator, stuff like that. And the heater we have in here, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't keep up at all. This place freezes solid. Not that it creates ice in here, but I mean, you come in here and the water's frozen. It's crazy how much difference it is between the generator running and not running. So the problem I'm having is, how do I warm the air up before it gets pulled into the building to feed the generator enough air that it needs, but not to pull in negative 30 air so that this building maintains a little more moderate temperature. If you guys have any ideas on how to do that, shoot them in the comments, because I'd love to hear ideas. I've been kind of racking my brain thinking how to do that. I don't want to spend a bunch of money. I don't want to buy heaters, and remember, we're off grid. We don't have electricity to waste. I'm trying to think of a way to do it that's not going to cost us anything. Maybe it's just the nature of the beast, living in an Arctic environment where it gets this cold. You deal with it. It hasn't caused us really any problems, other than it costs a lot to heat the space because it's constantly being cold, chilled down, and has to bring it back up to temperature. Our generator generally runs every 3 to 4 days. So it stays nice and warm in here for 3 to 4 days. Then the generator kicks on, it freezes the place, it's got to warm back up, and it's just a constant cycle throughout the winter. Anyways, guys, so that is a problem I have that I don't have a solution for yet. But the generator building, by far, being put out here, I have no complaints about it. I have no complaints about the solar system being installed out here. It's a great dry place for it. Everything has worked out great. There's just a few, the building of the roof, my mistake. I should have known to seal it up better. And then the air intake for the generator. I got to figure out what to do about that. So let's go inside. I'll show you some other things that we've run into. And maybe some of these mistakes we've made, we can keep you guys from making the same mistakes. Behind me, guys, is one of our tents we have. We have 3 of these tents up around the property. And one of the major things that I will tell you, we made probably the biggest mistake that we've made developing our property. And this is from raw land. This is not coming into a pre-made homestead where, there may be some structures and buildings already up. This is from ground zero, nothing but forest. You're cutting it in completely from scratch like we did. And you gotta think about, how do you plan and lay out your homestead? If you're going to build your own house, I tell you, it takes tons of tools. You need somewhere to put those tools. We got here in the summertime. I was so excited to build the house. We wanted to just start dumping money into getting the ground prepped and all that stuff. And what I didn't think about was, wow, what am I going to do with all my tools? Our big mistake was not building a shop first. Build a garage, a shop, or something, somewhere to store your tools to keep it out of the weather, and to have a warm, dry place to work on things. Wow. Lesson learned. And if there's one thing that you get from this video, you're gonna develop a homestead on raw land, build a place to store tools, build a place to work on things. And we did not do that, and I regret it day in and day out. So behind me over here is one of our tents. The chicken coop is over here, the house is over here, and behind me, directly behind me, those trees is where we're gonna cut down. So all of that is gonna get cut down, and we've measured it out, and I believe that we can get a 50-foot shop put in there. Don't hold me to the numbers, but that area right there is where our detached shop is gonna go, and that is on the short list of things to get done. I'm not, at this point now, we've gone too far. We have got to finish the house, and we're so close to getting things done at the house. So I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon, but the plan is to knock down those trees, cut a new pad in right there, and develop a shop area there. Hindsight being 2020, guess what? We'll play some catch up. We'll get the shop in there, especially here in a cold climate. It will be a nice place to stay out of the winter. If I have to work on something in the winter time, I can heat that space. So that's the idea, and that's the plan. We're gonna fix this, remedy the mistake, and you guys will see it because we're gonna film the whole process. You guys see the woodshed behind me, and we've been busting our butts trying to fill that thing. We're getting all of our wood cut up, hopefully prepping for next winter. It's so nice to get a head start on that, and you guys have seen that in the last video. But there's a mistake about this building, and I'll tell you, placement of your woodshed. We looked around and we debated it, and me and Vaughn had some arguments about it, no doubt about it, but we thought about where to put the woodshed, and we ended up putting it at the back of our house. It's a nice location property-wise, but what it does is our wood stove is at the front of the house. So we actually have to grab wood, we bring it to the back door, and we walk the wood through the house, through the main living space, to bring wood to the wood stove. Now I know as soon as I'm saying that, some of you are like, oh, you're an idiot. Yup. We've actually talked about it, and it's like, well, we could have put it in the front of the house, but on the front side, but then we'd have to come in through the Arctic entry and to the wood stove, and then aesthetically we're going to be seeing the woodshed out the front windows, and there were some things that, you know, we discussed. Hindsight being 2020, as everything is, the woodshed is phenomenal, but we need to build a second woodshed up front. You know, ultimately it boils down to, you know, as you age, how many times do you really want to move a piece of wood before you put it in your stove to heat yourself? So I don't know. I have a feeling that I'm going to build a second woodshed up front, and maybe this one just won't get used. I mean, it's just, right now it's a great woodshed. It's a great space, but the location of where your stove is in your house and how you're going to get that wood from point A to point B and burn it is something you need to think about. And it's something that we thought about and we made a mistake. It works for us now, but ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, the closest distance between point A and B, woodshed to wood stove, is the best way, because as you carry it through your house, believe me, it gets dirty. There's a lot of cleaning involved. As I explained earlier in the video, our waste drain line froze up where it exits the house. We were able to free up the ice jam, but through that, I really learned the mistake I made with not putting our cleanouts, or at least not as many cleanouts. So I've got a 4-inch here. We're gonna cut this pipe. We're gonna install a cleanout right here. The ice jam outside really opened my eyes to a mistake I made in the plumbing of our waste drain line. All right, I'm thinking, I mean, we could even go right like this. That'd be pretty cool. But I'm gonna cut it off down here. Let's go like that. Right across in there somewhere. Perfect. Okay. Now we cut it right there. We should be able to cut it right here. I poured several buckets of clean water down the furthest waste line, the drain, and to clean this pipe out just to make sure there was nothing nasty. So I think that was a smart idea. All right. There we go. Man, that 4-inch pipe is tough. All right, guys, so we got to clean out right there. That'll make it so I can clean out right down out to the outside. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to put a clean out right back over there. All right, so here's a 3-inch drain, or 3-inch clean out. We got a 3-inch clean out right here. So now there's a clean out all the way up on that end, coming this way, another clean out here, heading that way to go around the bend, and then way over there is our 4-inch clean out right there. And so then we've got a clean out all along the segment of pipe, all along right to here. All right. Hopefully that'll solve any future problems we may have with the waste drain line. I think, I mean, if I have to add some more cleanouts, I don't know. I don't mind adding cleanouts, but well, so far our drainage system in the house has worked great. We've got the proper slope, everything flowing real good, everything's venting well, but it froze up on the outside. So we really need to address the outside for future freeze up. And I think the answer is heat tracing the line. All right, let's move on to the next problem. All right, guys, our next problem area is here. I'm standing in our Arctic entry. It's kind of cluttered, full of stuff, but this behind me is the door going into the house. This is a warm, heated space. Arctic entry, cold. So, here's the mistake I didn't think of. Let me show you. Can you see up there? That is all frost. All right, so the major flaw of the Arctic entry is this. So as we open our entry door, when it is really, really cold out, well, look back on one of our videos when it was like 40 or 50 below. Vaughn was showing you as we open the door and the cold air comes in and there's like a cloud of mist rolling across the house. Okay, same thing works here. Every time we come in and out of our front door, we lose a little heat, right? So that heat rolls out of there. And because we don't have a ceiling, it's just wide open to our attic space, that warm air goes straight up, hits the roof sheathing, condenses, and frosts. Just living in the Arctic, I never even considered that being a problem. You open the door, the warm air has nowhere to go but up. And it's just, even if you just open the door for a second. So what's the solution? Because we've talked about it and we've talked about it. It's like, well, we could insulate the ceiling of the Arctic entry, put a ceiling, but if we don't heat the space, it's still going to maintain the same temperature as outside. So no matter what, you open the door, hot air rolls out, and the first place it's going to hit is the ceiling that we installed right here. And so it's just going to turn the whole entire ceiling into a frozen wasteland. It's going to frost over the ceiling, and I don't think that's the solution. The only solution is to get that hot air to roll out and be able to go outside freely so it can condense and rise into the air, right? How do we do that? I'm not 100% sure. The first thing that comes to my mind is heat the Arctic entry. We already have the floor of it insulated. We can insulate the walls, we can insulate the ceiling, and we can heat this, causing the warm meeting the cold air to exist after you exit the Arctic entry. So then it would condense outside, or it'd freeze outside and create that hoarfrost, probably on the deck, the ceiling of our deck. I don't know. But I can tell you right now, we don't want that up there because as it frosts over the sheathing of the roof, once it melts, which it has been melting a little bit, it's going to come down on our insulation, cause moisture on our insulation, and then we've got way bigger problems. So yeah, the whole idea of the frost and just the absolute freeze of living here is just a new experience, and it's a learning experience. I'm having to adapt and kind of overcome with a lot of problems. But guys, if you're building in an Arctic environment or you have built in an Arctic environment, give me your suggestions. Let me take you up in the attic space and show you what's happening with our ventilation system for our waste drain lines. So we have 2 bathrooms in the house. Each bathroom has an exhaust fan. Let me show you what's going on with the exhaust fans. We actually had a leak back in the house. Vaughn calls me. She's like, there's a drip in the bathroom. I look up, sure enough, there's water coming down. It's hitting the vapor barrier, and water always finds a way, and it found a way through the vapor barrier into the bathroom and started dripping. And I was like, oh no. Let me show you what's going on upstairs. Guys, I'm here up in the attic space and I want to show you what I got going on here. So here's the frost I was telling you about. You see it all frosted up on the sheathing here? And then there's the gable wall. Okay, so then there's the gable wall. All frosted up right there, right? So one of the mistakes I made was I did not vent the plumbing out the roof, and I'm not going out the roof. Actually, we're going to be going out the gable wall, but I didn't vent it outside like I was supposed to because I was like, I just didn't think it was important enough to do right away. But one of the problems we had, this is our air vent for the guest bathroom, the toilet, all that stuff. This 2-inch pipe, now, oh, you can feel the ice in it. But this 2-inch pipe was frozen solid, completely sealed off with hoarfrost a week ago. It's since melted because I cleaned it all out and melted it off. But we have a problem with our ventilation because it's condensing. Anything above the insulation is instantly cold, as much as 30, 40, or even 50 below zero. So first things first, always vent to the outside, whether it's through your roof or, in my instance, I'm going to go out the gable wall, and that's going to open things up. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to use a reducer, and then this is actually going to be 4-inch pipe going out the wall. So we're actually going to change the size of the pipe. We're going to turn that into actually we're going to put a 90 on there. We're going to turn this into a 4-inch pipe. So it's going to go from 2-inch to 4-inch and vent it outside. And the reason I'm going to upgrade it or upsize it to 4-inch is no matter what, after speaking to several people, and I'll give credit to our subscribers, there were a couple of subscribers that said nothing less than a 3-inch vent to go outside. So sure enough, talking with several people locally, they said no matter what the size of your vent is here, it's going to freeze up. The wider or bigger your vent pipe, the longer you have before it freezes. And of course, in certain circumstances, maybe it won't frost over, but more than likely it's going to frost over. So I'm going with a 4-inch pipe. That's about as big a pipe as I want to exit with. And we're going to put that outside. I need to slope that 1/4 inch per foot. It's going to slope back. So any condensation or freeze, when it melts, will drain right back down the pipe and go out the waste drain line with everything else. So that's my solution for that pipe. I have to do this. I have to do this fix for both this bathroom and the vent pipe for the master bathroom, which will vent out the opposite gable side. And then all I got to do is make sure that on the end of the pipe, it's capped so birds and stuff aren't making nests up in there in the spring and summertime. And so that's my fix for the ventilation. So if you guys are coming along and you're looking to vent your house and you're doing it in an Arctic environment, you can either go up through your roof, which is the preferred method, and just make sure that you go with a 3-inch or bigger pipe. It's going to save you all kinds of problems. So it doesn't matter if it's down in your wall, it should be a 2-inch vent or an 1.5-inch vent or whatever is required by code. But as you come up into the cold air of the attic space, you need to upsize that to a 3-inch or bigger pipe as you exit out to the air. And that's really going to solve some problems. We'll see how it works, but that's the solution I have for right now. All right, guys, you can see I brought in this is my 4-inch pipe. And I just got to make sure that I've got enough poking out through the wall to account for the wall thickness and everything happening out there. So there's that pipe. All right, guys, so there's our vent pipe coming up, goes into 4-inch, and then it goes across out the wall. Now this whole thing, when we blow in insulation, this whole thing will be covered with insulation. We'll do the exact same thing for the master bath on the other side, and that will vent the whole sewage system between the two stacks, the two pipes. So the other problem we have in the attic, and this was, Vaughn realized this, and it was pretty obvious, what a bonehead move, but I installed ceiling fans in the bathrooms. Now the ceiling fans, here's one right here. So there's one of the ceiling fans. Can anybody tell me what the problem is? It vents out the side wall, out the gable end, right out there. What is the problem? So the problem we have, this section of pipe right here is on a downhill slope. I should have brought it further down, and this is on a backward slope. This pipe here should be sloping so that any condensation that gets in there from the heated air going out flows out the wall. Well, the problem is, if you can see, it comes in here and then it goes down and into the fan. That downward section allows the water to flow back into the bathroom. So condensation, hot air comes up into the pipe, it freezes, condensates, and as it condensates, it flows back into the bathroom. What a boneheaded mistake. So I need to re-rack this and bring that pipe further downhill and then exit the gable end. So right now you can see the gable, or that pipe exits at the gable right there. I need to bring it downhill because this all slopes down, and I need to exit somewhere in here. So by exiting that or changing that, it will maintain a downward slope out and not allow any condensation to drain back into the bathroom. That's a major poo-paw there. That was a mistake. And I did it on both bathrooms. So now I'm just gonna, it should be a fairly easy fix. I will have to patch the sheathing on the outside wall, but ultimately we don't have our siding on. We're putting 2 inches of foam on the outside wall still. So now is the time to fix it, not later. So guys, those are our problems that we found, our solutions that we're gonna use to fix them. And I'll tell you right now, I've said it multiple times, I'm not a professional. And so I'm moving forward as best I can to get this stuff built. And as I make mistakes, I remedy them. I come back and I fix them. That's the beauty of building it by yourself, is that you know exactly what you did and you should be able to go back and fix it. Whew. All right, well, let's go get the other pipe fixed for our vent, and then we're gonna tackle these fans in the bathrooms. All right, guys, well, it's been a great video. It's been fun making it. We've made plenty of mistakes. A lot of times we don't necessarily show them. YouTube tends to come across as, ooh, everything works in La La Land, it's perfect, you know. And we try to show our mistakes as we go, but we don't always catch them. And honestly, some of them we don't see until we've lived in the space, just like the vent lines and some of the drainage issues. They show up, you don't really think about it, but hey, mistakes have been made, and I know they're going to continue to be made as we develop this homestead and we progress forward. So thank you for watching. Me and Vaughn can't express enough how much we appreciate you guys taking some time to watch what we have going on. And guys, that's all I have for you on the video. Stay tuned for next week. You guys, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Click the bell for notifications so you're notified every time we release a video. We appreciate you sticking with us. We'll see you on the next one.